Today's story is about an old friend who emailed me about a strange secret website on the deep web. It's hard to believe I've been an internet and deep web user for 20 years now. That's older than some of my coworkers, over half my life, and yet the internet still feels new. I remember when you had to leaf through encyclopedias for answers, find pictures of Gillian Anderson in magazines, and wait 30 minutes to download a song. Getting online was thrilling back then. The first time I did it unsupervised, I had anything at my fingertips through Lycos. At 13, I was into naked celebrities and the paranormal. I built a Fortune Cities homepage and linked it to the darknet web ring where I met Angelica. She hosted a Wiccan page on Angelfire with cool GIFs and comics. A few weeks ago, she emailed me out of the blue using her ICQ contact light, which felt quaint. Then she asked, "Do you remember the whole?" It took a moment, but I recalled. A tiny black dot in the darknet and Netscape's corner. You had to hover and click to enter. It was a mysterious, empty space. I replied, but her responses were delayed and scripted, more focused on making me recall than catching up. She insisted the whole still hid secrets, despite platforms like Netscape fading away. Doubts grew about her intentions. Investigating further, I found her email host, Globetrotter, had shut down years ago. Her scant online presence since the 90s deepened my unease. Days later, she emailed again, mentioning the whole center and a lifetime exploring it. An anonymous message urged caution, but curiosity led me to an archived version of the whole on archive.org. Further emails linked to an old Gopher site pleading for help. Police dismissed it as a prank but reluctantly looked into Angelica. Communication stopped abruptly. Weeks later, a mysterious envelope arrived with printouts of all our correspondence since the 90s. Bringing these to the police confirmed Angelica had been missing since 1999, casting a sinister shadow over the entire ordeal. Her parents offered a reward, but there were no clues. One night she was in her room listening to music. By morning, she was gone. I was shocked, leaning toward it being a prank. But what if it was really her? Maybe she had a psychotic break or something. I don't understand the whole thing. Is it even real? The blank email address baffles me. That's what scares me the most. After my last post, I searched for contacts from our time. We had a few mutual contacts, mostly from the web ring. I remembered one, Rapscallion42, into hacking and anarchy. He'd been online since bulletin board days. I couldn't find any trace of him, which was strange. I dug out my old 1997 HP with Windows 98 from the basement. It booted up like it was just in sleep mode. There were my old icons, IQQ, Netscape, Napster, bringing back memories. I wasn't sure ICQ would still work, but it loaded with an offline message from November 1999. "You coming?" from Angelica. It chilled me. I'd used ICQ after 1999. It felt ghostly. I searched for Rapscallion42 on ICQ, surprised to find him online. I messaged him, and we caught up. I asked why he still used ICQ. He said it was due to Y2K, which affected new tech but left old systems intact. Y2K wasn't just about computers crashing, it tainted new technology's connection. He hadn't heard about Angelica's disappearance. He believed she'd simply left the internet around Y2K, coinciding with her last message. Ralph believed my story and shared something about a mutual friend, Reggie, from a mid-90s hacking forum. He had many friends, was articulate, and earned genuine respect over time. Eventually, he drifted away from the forum as life's demands took precedence, his posts dwindling until he vanished. The forum valued anonymity, so after his departure, no one stayed in touch. The forum still existed, though nowhere near its former glory, but the dedicated regulars persisted. Then, after 2 decades, Reggie reappeared suddenly. His posts were courteous yet oddly strained, attempting familiarity by addressing old-timers by their first names. His return perplexed and initially pleased the forum, but soon Reggie's behavior turned bizarre. Ignoring replies, he began posting incessantly about a newfound passion for hacking, claiming it was revolutionary and something he needed to share. When he posted a message expressing affection and included a
The next day, Reggie didn't show up for work. His colleagues thought nothing of it at first. Maybe he was sick, maybe he overslept. But as days turned into weeks, concern grew. Police were called. His apartment was searched. There was no sign of struggle, no note left behind. Just his computer, still humming softly in the corner. The mysterious link was nowhere to be found. Reggie had vanished without a trace. His disappearance sent ripples through our tight-knit community. Theories abounded. Some said he'd run away, others whispered of foul play. But those who knew about the link, we suspected something far more sinister, something that defied explanation, something that lurked in the dark corners of the internet, waiting to claim its next victim. Weeks after Reggie's disappearance, I received an email. The sender was unknown. The subject line read, "Remember?" My finger hovered over the delete button, but something stopped me. I opened it. Inside was a single link. No text, no explanation. Just a string of seemingly random characters. I shouldn't have clicked it. But I did. The page loaded slowly. At first, I saw nothing but static. Then, an image emerged. My blood ran cold. It was a photo of me as a child. I was standing in my old backyard, smiling at the camera. But something was wrong. The angle was off, as if taken from above. And in the background, barely visible, was a figure. Tall, thin, faceless. I didn't remember it being there. I slammed my laptop shut. My heart raced. How did they get this photo? Who were they? And why send it to me now? Questions swirled in my mind, each more unsettling than the last. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was an old friend playing a prank. But deep down, I knew. This was connected to Reggie's disappearance. Somehow, some way, it was all linked. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that figure, standing in the background, watching, waiting. I tossed and turned, my mind racing. Was I next? Had I set something in motion by clicking that link? The darkness seemed to press in around me, and in the silence of the night, I swore I could hear something. A faint whisper, barely audible. "Remember," it said, "remember." Rap was always a bit of an oddball, a tech genius with a paranoid streak. He'd been warning us about Y2K for months. We laughed it off. But as the new millennium approached, his ravings grew more intense. He spoke of hidden codes, of secret messages embedded in the internet's very fabric. We thought he'd finally lost it, until the day he burst into my office, wild-eyed and breathless. "I've found it," he gasped. "The truth, it's all connected." He shoved a crumpled piece of paper into my hand. On it was scrawled a web address. Before I could ask what it meant, he was gone. Out the door and into the night. I never saw him again. The next day, his apartment was empty. No note, no explanation, just like Reggie. I stared at the paper for hours. The web address seemed to mock me. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to pretend none of this was happening. But I couldn't. I had to know. With trembling hands, I typed it into my browser. The page loaded. At first, nothing but black. Then, text appeared. One word, repeated over and over, millennium. As I watched, the words began to shift, to change. They formed patterns, spirals, fractals. My head spun. I felt like I was falling into the screen. And then, just for a moment, I saw it. A face. Inhuman, ancient, terrifying. I recoiled, slamming the laptop shut. But it was too late. I'd seen it. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to my core, that it had seen me too. Days passed. I tried to forget what I'd seen, to go back to normal life, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of something lurking just out of sight. Then, one night, I noticed something odd on my desktop. A new folder. It hadn't been there before. Its name made my blood run cold. No escape. With shaking hands, I double-clicked. Inside were dozens of photos. Of me, in my home, at work, on the street, all taken without my knowledge. Some from angles that seemed impossible, as if the camera was floating in mid-air, or peering through walls. I felt sick, violated. How long had this been going on? Who was behind it? But it got worse. As I scrolled through the images, I noticed something. In each one, barely visible, was that same figure, the one from my childhood photo, tall, thin, faceless. Sometimes it was in the background, sometimes reflected in a window, once, terrifyingly, standing right behind me as I slept. I hadn't seen it, but it had always been there, watching, waiting. I wanted to scream, to run, but where could I go? The folder's name taunted me. No escape, it was right. There was nowhere to hide, not from this, not from whatever it was that had its sights set on me. I sat there, staring at the screen, as the night deepened around me, and in the silence, I swore I could hear something. A soft, metallic chuckle, coming from my computer's speakers, or maybe terrifyingly from inside my own head. Section 5. Voices from the Void, Unsettling Audio Discoveries. The No Escape folder wasn't done with its horrors. Buried among the photos I found audio files. My hands shook as I clicked play. At first, nothing but static. Then, voices. Distorted. Inhuman. They spoke in tongues I couldn't understand. The sounds made my skin crawl. I wanted to stop listening, but I couldn't. Something compelled me to keep going. As I listened, patterns emerged. Rhythms, like some twisted alien music. It burrowed into my brain, made my thoughts fuzzy. I felt dizzy, nauseous, but still I listened. Hours passed. The sun rose and set. I barely noticed. The voices consumed me. And then just as I thought I couldn't take anymore, I heard it. A word I recognized. My name. Spoken in a voice that was cold, metallic, utterly devoid of humanity. I ripped off my headphones, threw them across the room. But it was too late. The damage was done. That voice echoed in my head, over and over, calling my name, beckoning me. To what, I didn't know, and I wasn't sure I wanted to find out. I sat there, trembling, as the first light of dawn crept through my window. The world outside seemed normal, peaceful, but I knew better now. I'd heard the truth. The void had spoken, and it knew my name. Sleep eluded me for days after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard those voices, saw flashes of impossible geometries, felt something watching me from just beyond the veil of reality. I was losing my grip, spiraling into paranoia. I needed help, needed answers. But who could I turn to? Who would believe me? As I pondered these questions, my computer chimed, a new email, from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line made my heart stop. "We're waiting for you." I didn't open it, couldn't bring myself to. But I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to my core, that whatever was on the other side of that message was far from human.
Desperate for answers, I reached out to Ben, a tech whiz at the University of Guelph. I'd known him for years, trusted him. If anyone could make sense of this digital nightmare, it was him. I told him everything, about Reggie, about rap, about the folder and the voices. He listened, his face growing graver by the minute. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then, "I've heard whispers of something like this, but I never thought we need to dig deeper."
Ben set up a secure lab, isolated from the main university network. We couldn't risk whatever this was spreading. For days we pored over the data, the images, the audio files. Ben ran analysis after analysis, each result more disturbing than the last.
"These files," he muttered, "they're not normal. The encoding is impossible. It's like they're not fully in our reality."
As we delved deeper, strange things began to happen. Equipment malfunctioned, data disappeared. Once all the lights in the lab flickered out for a full minute. When they came back on, we found a message scrawled across one of the whiteboards, in a hand neither of us recognized. It read, "Cease your inquiries." We should have stopped then, should have walked away. But we were in too deep. The mystery had its hooks in us. We had to know the truth, no matter the cost.
"On the 5th day of our investigation, Ben made a breakthrough. I've traced the source," he said, his voice a mix of triumph and fear. "It's coming from a server, hidden, off the grid, but I've got its location."
He showed me the map. My blood ran cold. The server was in my hometown, in a place I knew all too well. An abandoned factory on the edge of town. A place that had always given me the creeps as a kid. A place that, according to local legend, was haunted. As I stared at the map, a chill ran down my spine. Whatever was behind all this, whatever had taken Reggie and Rap, it had been right under our noses all along. And now, we were on its trail. God help us. Milky was always the most tech-savvy of our group. He had gadgets for everything, but lately, he'd grown paranoid, kept talking about being watched. We brushed it off as too much caffeine and not enough sleep, until the day he called me, his voice trembling with fear.
"It's in my computer," he whispered. "It's watching me, through my webcam. I can feel its eyes on me."
I rushed over to his place, found him huddled in a corner, his laptop smashed to pieces on the floor.
"It wouldn't turn off," he babbled. "The camera light, it stayed on, even when I unplugged it. It kept watching, always watching."
I tried to calm him down, told him it was impossible, but as I looked at the broken laptop, a chill ran down my spine. The camera light was still on, glowing faintly in the darkness. Milky refused to touch any electronics after that. Throughout his phone, his TV, even his microwave, he covered every reflective surface in his apartment with black paint.
They can see through mirrors, he said. It's how they get in.
I wanted to dismiss it as the ravings of a man on the edge, but after everything I'd seen, everything I'd heard, I couldn't be sure anymore. Days later, Milky vanished. His apartment was empty when I went to check on him. No sign of struggle, no note. Just like Reggie, just like Rap. On his bedroom wall, scrawled in what looked like blood, was a message. The eyes never close. And below it, a crude drawing of a webcam, its light eternally on. Watching, waiting. I fled the apartment, my heart pounding, but even as I ran, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, somehow, I was being observed, that no matter where I went, no matter what I did, those digital eyes would always be upon me, always open, always hungry. Angelica had been off the grid for months. No calls, no emails, nothing. We'd been close once, but she'd drifted away, become distant, paranoid. The last time we spoke, she'd ranted about dark forces, about entities that lived in the wires. I'd written it off as stress, maybe drugs. Now I wasn't so sure. I had to find her, had to know if she was okay. It took weeks of searching, dead ends, false leads. Then, finally, a breakthrough. An address in a small town I'd never heard of. I drove there, my heart in my throat. The house was old, decrepit, paint peeling, windows boarded up. I knocked. No answer. I was about to leave when I heard it. A whisper from inside.
Go away, it's not safe.
I recognized her voice, barely. It was strained, frightened.
Angelica, I called. It's me, please, I need to talk to you.
Silence. Then slowly, the sound of locks being undone. The door creaked open, and there she was, but not as I remembered her. Her eyes were wild, hair matted, skin pale. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks.
You shouldn't have come, she hissed. They'll find you now. They always find you.
She let me in. The house was a maze of computers, screens everywhere, all dark, all unplugged.
I tried to warn everyone, she muttered, about the danger, the entities, but no one listened. And now, she trailed off, her eyes darting to the windows, as if expecting something to burst through at any moment.
I tried to get her to explain, to tell me what she knew, but she just shook her head.
It's too late, she whispered, for all of us.
And as I stood there, surrounded by dead screens and the palpable fear of my old friend, I couldn't help but wonder. Was she right? Had we already lost, without even knowing the game we were playing? Angelica's ramblings led me down a dark path. She spoke of covens, of rituals performed in chat rooms, of an entity called Holy Moses that stalked the darkest corners of the web. I dismissed it at first, more paranoid delusions, but something nagged at me. The homepage was like something out of a fever dream. Black background, purple text, crudely drawn pentagrams. It claimed to belong to Angelica, my oldest friend. But Angelica hated computers. She thought they were government spies.
I called her up, the phone crackling with static. Angelica, you'll never guess what I found online.
What are you talking about? Her voice was tight, suspicious.
There's a website, says it's yours, all about Wicca and witchcraft.
Silence, then a sharp denial.
That's impossible, someone's messing with you.
But I could hear the doubt in her voice, and something else, fear. Angelica started acting strange, jumpier, more withdrawn. She swore someone was following her online, leaving cryptic messages on her emails, her online forum posts. Things only she would understand. Inside jokes, shared secrets.
It's like they're in my head, she whispered, her eyes wide with terror.
I tried to rationalize it. Maybe an ex-boyfriend, someone with a grudge. But the messages were too specific, too personal. They spoke of things that had never been shared outside our small circle of friends. It was like a digital doppelganger, a phantom haunting her from the depths of the internet. The name first appeared in a message to Angelica. Holy Moses is watching, just that. No context, no explanation. At first, we dismissed it as just another cryptic threat, but the name kept appearing. On other websites, in online forums, even scrolled across bathroom stalls in our neighborhood.
He was an enigma, this Holy Moses. No one knew who he was or what he wanted. Some whispered he was a hacker, others a digital boogeyman, a myth that had sprung from the darkest corners of the internet.
But one thing was clear: he was somehow connected to Angelica, and he was drawing her deeper into his web of mystery. The IRS, not the tax agency, but the Internet Relay Chat, a digital frontier from the early days of the Internet. A relic of the early Internet, a place where anonymity reigned supreme and users could be anyone or anything they wanted. Angelica was convinced Holy Moses lurked there, in the shadows between channels, hidden behind cryptic usernames and elusive messages. She spent countless hours on the IRS, her fingers flying across the keyboard, trying to track him down, piecing together fragments of conversations.
She showed me cryptic conversations, nonsensical strings of text that seemed to hold hidden meanings, like a digital code waiting to be cracked. Names and dates flashed across the screen, fragments of information that only deepened the mystery, each clue leading to more questions.
The IRS was like a digital underworld, a place where the rules of the real world no longer applied, and chaos reigned. And it was there, in that digital labyrinth, that we began to unravel the truth about Holy Moses, a journey that would take us deeper into the unknown. Time seemed to blur as Angelica delved deeper, often losing track of hours, even days in her quest. She combed through old newspaper clippings and digital archives, searching for any mention of Holy Moses, any clue that could lead her closer. Her face, illuminated by the glow of the computer screen, showed determination and a hint of obsession. She created a map, pinning down locations and connecting dots, trying to make sense of the scattered pieces of the puzzle. The deeper she went, the more it felt like navigating a dark alleyway, each turn revealing more shadows and secrets. But then, a breakthrough, a flicker of light in the darkness, a clue that promised to bring her closer to the elusive Holy Moses. Angelica's eyes lit up with a sense of accomplishment, knowing she was one step closer to uncovering the truth. The deeper we delved, the more unsettling the warnings became.
Turn back while you still can. He's not who you think he is.
The messages appeared everywhere, on Angelica's computer, on my phone, even scrawled on the dusty windshield of my car. It was like we were being watched, our every move tracked by unseen eyes. Paranoia set in, a cold dread that seeped into every corner of our lives.
We were caught in a web of our own making, and the spider was closing in.
The truth, it seemed, was more terrifying than we could have imagined. I spent hours, days, lost in the digital abyss. The glow of the screen became my only companion, a portal to a world both fascinating and terrifying. Scouring online forums, piecing together fragments of information. Each thread, each post, was a breadcrumb leading me deeper into the unknown.
Holy Moses was a ghost story whispered in hushed tones, a legend passed around in the darkest corners of the internet, a name that sent shivers down the spine of even the most seasoned netizens. Some said he was a hacker who could control your computer, your phone, even your thoughts, a digital puppeteer pulling the strings from behind the veil of anonymity. Others claimed he was a digital demon, a malevolent entity that fed on fear and despair, a creature born from the darkest recesses of cyberspace, thriving on the chaos he created.
The more I learned, the more I realized we were in over our heads. This wasn't just a harmless online game or a simple urban legend. This was something real, something dangerous, a force that could reach out from the digital realm and touch our lives in ways we couldn't even imagine. The lines between reality and the virtual world began to blur. Every click, every keystroke felt like a step closer to the edge of an abyss.
I had to find out the truth about Holy Moses. The mystery consumed me, driving me to dig deeper, to uncover the secrets hidden in the code, even if it meant confronting my deepest fears. The journey was perilous, but the truth was out there, waiting to be discovered.
The line between the digital and the real world blurred. Strange occurrences plagued us, lights flickering, phones ringing with no one on the other end.
I swear I saw a figure watching me from the shadows, a tall, gaunt silhouette with eyes that glowed in the dark.
We were being manipulated, our lives twisted and contorted by an unseen hand. Fear became our constant companion, a suffocating presence that poisoned our every thought.
The closer we got to the truth, the more we realized we were not in control. We were puppets, dancing to the tune of a digital puppet master.
Section 8. Legends of the Lost Web. The internet was a different place back then, wild, untamed, full of dark corners and hidden pathways. Legends circulated of lost websites, digital crypts where the truly strange and disturbing resided. Places where the veil between reality and cyberspace thinned to the point of non-existence. Rumors circulated of a group of hackers, digital mystics, who believed they could achieve immortality through the internet. They called themselves the Digital Ascended, and their leader was said to be none other than Holy Moses. Were we dealing with a madman, a genius, or something else entirely? Section 9. Reality Fractured. Angelica, once a vibrant and carefree spirit, was now a shadow of her former self, haunted by nightmares, convinced that Holy Moses was closing in.
I tried to stay strong for her, to be the voice of reason, but even I could feel my grip on reality slipping. The lines between the digital and the real, the imagined and the experienced, all began to blur. Was this all in our heads? A shared delusion brought on by stress and paranoia? Or were we truly caught in a web of digital terror? The truth, whatever it was slowly driving us mad.
Section 10. Safety in the shadows. We withdrew from the world, seeking refuge in the analog, unplugging phones, disconnecting from the internet, trying to outrun a threat that existed solely in the digital realm.
But it was no use. Holy Moses had already seeped into our lives, his influence like a virus, corrupting everything it touched. We were trapped, caught in a nightmare with no escape. The only solace we found was in each other's company, clinging to the last vestiges of sanity we had left. But even in the shadows, we couldn't escape the feeling that we were being watched.
Section 11. The unmasking we fear. The truth, when it finally found us, was more mundane than we could have imagined. We had built up a narrative of a grand conspiracy, a shadowy figure pulling the strings from behind the scenes. No digital demon, no mastermind hacker. The reality was far less dramatic, yet equally unsettling. Just a lonely, disturbed individual, seeking connection in the most twisted of ways. His actions were a cry for help, masked by a facade of control and manipulation.
The power he wielded was not supernatural, nor was it rooted in any advanced technology, but the power of fear, of suggestion. He knew how to plant seeds of doubt and let them grow into forests of paranoia. He had exploited our vulnerabilities, our deepest fears, and turned them against us. Every whisper, every shadow became a potential threat. The unmasking should have brought relief, closure, but the scars remained. The emotional wounds he inflicted were deep, and healing would take time.
The experience had changed us, left an indelible mark on our psyche, shaken our faith in the digital world, in the very nature of reality itself. We questioned everything we once took for granted. We had stared into the abyss, and the abyss had stared back. It was a confrontation with our own fears and insecurities. And in its reflection, we saw a darkness that would forever haunt our waking dreams. The shadows of our past would linger, a constant reminder of the fragility of our perceived reality.
It was becoming increasingly clear that the unsettling events surrounding Holy Moses and my past were intricately intertwined. My mother's steadfast insistence that we never had internet at home during my high school years clashed sharply with my vivid memories of browsing and building online. Our arguments only deepened my confusion. Desperate for answers, I reached out to Ricky, an old friend from high school. His sudden willingness to talk, coupled with a cryptic phone call that left me uneasy, added another layer to the mystery. His mention of alt.rec's Birdwatch led me to revisit old news groups, uncovering eerie discussions about an abandoned internet cafe from our youth, a place where strange encounters with people in costumes and even a silent dog were remembered. The cafe, once a hub for local teens, had faded into obscurity after a mysterious change in management. It seemed like an innocuous memory until Ricky's cryptic message stirred dormant recollections of unsettling experiences there. The feeling that someone or something had been watching us, manipulating our interactions, lingered ominously. As I delved deeper into these memories and their implications, the boundary between reality and something inexplicable blurred further. The eerie coincidences, the bizarre intrusions, and the unexplained gaps in memory painted a picture of a hidden world linked to my past online activities, now resurfacing with unsettling consequences. Haunted by these revelations, I struggled to reconcile what I knew with what I was discovering. A dark undercurrent woven through my adolescence, now threatening to unravel the stability of my present. The more I uncovered, the more I feared what else might lie hidden in the shadows of those early internet days. But Ricky and I used to hang out there all the time. Why couldn't I remember that before? My mom was right all along. I replied to the newsgroup message asking why I couldn't recall these memories, though it was a long shot given how old the post was. As I scrolled through other posts, I found similar unsettling stories. People recounted losing hours inside with disjointed memories and strange experiences at the Egypt, the nickname for a little internet cafe behind the post office. One person described a day when they felt out of place, with no staff around, just the unsettling presence of a dog that never seemed to breathe. Memories surfaced of a friend watching a live webcam of their bedroom, claiming something ominous was about to happen. When they saw someone in the webcam who looked exactly like them rummaging through their room, they were shaken to the core. Replies to their posts hinted at even darker mysteries, suggesting a hidden reality tied to eerie encounters at the Egypt. Desperate for answers, I reached out to my friend Ben, hoping to identify those involved. But Ben couldn't find any trace of the newsgroup or the disturbing posts I described. Instead, he traced a link I provided to an address, the duplex where I grew up. It felt like every answer only led to more questions, but I resolved to return to my hometown to investigate further, despite the unsettling memories and the neglected state of my childhood home. Returning there stirred up memories of carefree days spent watching cartoons and reading books, now contrasted with the eerie emptiness of the abandoned duplex. Sneaking in through a familiar window, I was startled by faint, distorted music playing inside, music that shouldn't have been there. It heightened my unease, making me wonder if someone else was there, aware of my presence. Bracing myself, I ventured further inside, determined to uncover the truth behind the unsettling mysteries of the Egypt and my own past. The experience at the internet cafe shook me deeply. Reconnecting with memories of the Egypt and discovering unsettling posts online made me question reality. The eerie incidents with the webcam and the strange presence in my old bedroom left me unnerved, reinforcing my decision to avoid revisiting that past. Upon returning to my hometown, I found the Egypt converted into a pub, with the owner sharing stories of its abandonment. He handed me old floppy disks found there, each containing mysteries tied to missing children and internet interactions with someone named Angelic, including a surprising revelation about Angelica herself. This discovery added layers to the already haunting memories of that place, leaving me unsettled and uncertain about what I had unearthed.